President Joe Biden now has to eat his words. It wasn't long ago when he said that his son Hunter, smartest guy he knows, and he did nothing wrong. But now that Hunter is taking a guilty plea, agreeing that he committed 3 very minor offenses relative to all of the other criminality that exists in the Hunter Biden disgusting universe out there chronicled on the internet for everybody's horror. He apparently did do something wrong, and the media is calling him out on it. They're saying, hey, Joe, you just told us that your son was innocent. And he's been saying this for a long time. He's been selling this line for a long time. And look, I know that a father is going to protect their son. A mother is going to protect their daughter. It's a parental thing to do to defend your child. And so we can give Joe Biden a little bit of a pass on that one. But that is the same thing that co-conspirators do, is they justify their role in a conspiracy and they protect their co-conspirators, especially when it's all in the family. This is what Joe Biden said not long ago, May 5th, 2023 on with MSNBC.
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him, and it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him. First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him, and it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Wow. Okay. So proud of him. And it influences him, right? It contributes to his presidency, and he takes him on his Air Force with him. Air Force One, flying him all around the world. Did nothing wrong. How do I know? Well, he told me he did nothing wrong, and I trust him. But the media isn't buying it, and everybody is questioning this plea deal. People are wondering, is this really happening? I mean, it makes the double standard that we've all been screaming about that much more apparent.
He insisted. He said, as recently as last month, my son did nothing wrong. Well, now his own Justice Department has entered into a plea agreement where his son has pled guilty to 2 crimes.
Yeah.
And has been charged with a 3rd crime, a felony. So clearly his son did something wrong. He insisted.
He did.
He said, as recently as last month, my son did nothing wrong. Well, now his own Justice Department has entered into a plea agreement where his son has pled guilty to 2 crimes and has been charged with a 3rd crime, a felony. So clearly his son did something wrong.
Yep, and now they've got to acknowledge it. And so what does that mean? Is this the beginning of the investigation? Is this a plea agreement that is going to be the start of something much bigger? Or is this the end of it? Is this just them wrapping the whole investigation up, putting a nice little bow on top, saying, we've done our due diligence. See, we told you, nobody's above the law. And now the FD 1023 form and all of the allegations from those conspiracy theorist Republicans are all going to have been validated. Been conspiracy theories. They'll just point back to this investigation and say, we spent 5 years on this. It came to a conclusion. He got charged with what he should have been charged with. Stop using the law as a cudgel against your political opponents. Bill Barr, who is playing this weird game, this weird little tap dance, is trying to bounce around between one world in which the DOJ, as he readily acknowledges, was partisan and corrupt, essentially. In 2016, with the Crossfire Hurricane, with the Christopher Steele dossier and all of that, same story in 2020. We know that there were improper pressures put upon big tech companies and different levers were turned at the CIA to weaponize the government against Trump. So we've got bad big government again in 2020. Suddenly now, Bill Barr is going to tell us that when Trump is being prosecuted, it's all above board. Everything is great. Trump has no claim of prior impropriety here because this case is actually legitimate. So we pause there. Barr's going from bad government to good government. And now that we see this Biden plea deal, this guilty plea, where are we at? Are we still in bad government land? Are we in the government's now great again and all their criminal prosecutions are perfectly valid and vetted? Because we've got 2 of them going on right now. Are you going to tell us that Trump's is legitimate, but Hunter's is illegitimate? Or are you going to say that Hunter's is also legitimate? Because if it's illegitimate, don't we have an incongruity there, Bill? So he now comes out, and let's see what his take is on this. Where is he going to fall here? Is it going to be good government or bad government? Good DOJ or bad DOJ?
Today, thank you for being here. So
good to be here, Martha.
What's your reaction? What did you think when you heard this news of this plea deal this morning?
Well, I think the indictment of President Trump, which is a grave, significant act,
here we go,
really demands that the department assure everybody that the investigations into the Bidens was thorough and that the final decisions reached were reasonable. And I agree with Jonathan Turley. It's not looking that good. The key question, as you say, is this just the end of the gun and the tax case, or is this the end of the whole shebang? All the other things that were swirling around, as the press reported on, alleged bribery, alleged money laundering, and influence peddling, and even allegations of by whistleblowers of internal hanky-panky in the investigation.
What?
This demands a thorough accounting. And so I don't think the department can do what its normal act would be here, or normal posture would be, which is to say nothing.
I think we're back into the government is bad again. This DOJ is bad again. 2020, they were corrupt. 2016, they were corrupt. Mar-a-Lago investigation's incredible, amazing. Everything's perfect. But now we're back into, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right again. And it feels like they might be covering something up in favor of the Bidens. I'm confused. Obviously, Bill Barr's a smart man, so he must be able to reconcile this. How can one DOJ, FBI, CIA, gigantic bureaucratic state be bad 3 out of the 4 times and still be a legitimate institution?
I think the public interest demands that they assure people of the integrity of this investigation and the fairness of the final decision. And they have a good opportunity to do that with Chairman Comer's committee. If everything is hunky-dory, then I think they have to lean forward and look at that as an opportunity to clear the air and show that this was a thorough and fair investigation. Well, and remember, the House Republicans in 2017 and 18 did an excellent job of getting to the bottom of Russiagate. They were right about it before everybody else. They were right about it, and Mueller wasn't. So they conduct good investigations, and as I say, I think it should be looked at as an opportunity to clear the air.
Well, on that note, Jackie Heinrich reports that Representative Comer told her today at 4 p.m. that he and Representative Raskin will view 2 additional FBI documents stemming from bribery allegations against the Biden family.
Wow.
No further information on what they entail, but they're referenced in the 1023 form. So what's going on here with this drip? So why today suddenly, we have 2 more things that you can look at if you come into the SCIF?
Because they are corrupt.
I can't explain it. As I say, the department is typically reluctant to provide access to materials provided by confidential sources, raw material, and so forth. And there's good reason for that, as a general rule. But there are also cases where the public interest demands being more forward-leaning. Half the country believes there's a double standard of justice, or more than half of the country.
More than half.
I believe there's a double standard, and I've been an insider.
Wait. What? Bill Barr just said he agrees there's a double standard here? Hang on a minute.
And there's good reason for that, as a general rule. But there are also cases where the public interest demands being more forward-leaning. Half the country believes there's a double standard of justice, or more than half of the country. I believe there's a double standard, and I've been an insider. Wow. And I said even before these pleas were announced, it was critical that the department provide assurance to the American people that these cases are going to be fairly and thoroughly followed through on, and now that burden is especially heavy. These charges, frankly, could have been brought within the first few months after I became Attorney General. I don't see why we've waited 5 years if this is all there is to it. If
this is all they've got, David Weiss is the prosecutor on this case in Delaware. The Department of Justice oversees it. What are you asking them to provide in terms of additional information? For starters, the Hunter Biden attorney says, we're all done. We're done with the 5-year investigation.
Of course.
And Weiss says it's ongoing. Given what's going on in the country right now with all of this, as you point out, the Trump indictment, what more information? Tell them right now what you believe they need to disclose.
Well, I think they should cooperate with Chairman Comer's investigation into, all the business dealings. Part of that investigation, I think, will be to look at the thoroughness of the department's investigation. I'd be interested to know. Dave Weiss, his office initiated this. It's not like they were pushed into doing it. They initiated the investigation. It looked to me like they had things well in hand. Now, more and more information about money laundering came in. That makes things more complicated. But, was he provided the support that was needed? What were his views on this? There were reports of some disagreement as to whether there should be a felony or misdemeanor on the tax. Was he rolled on that? These are some of the things that have to be looked into. He requires the cooperation of other components in the department to get bank records and other things like that.
Yeah,
and it's
all
a
the way
cumbersome
up to
thing to
Merrick
conduct
Garland.
an investigation like this. I'd be interested in whether he was provided sufficient wherewithal to do it. But other than that, I think there's some questions that have to be answered about the whistleblowing, about whether efforts to undermine the investigation and shunt aside important information.
Amazing.
I've already talked about how the Pittsburgh office did develop important information and provided it to
We're living
Delaware.
in bizarro world.
And
Something going on in Delaware.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Bill Barr is now back. We're back definitely in government, DOJ, FBI investigation bad category again. I mean, we went from government bad, government amazing, incredible for Trump prosecution to government bad again. It's the strangest thing. It's very confusing to me. I mean, you know those games you used to play when you were a kid, like which one of these things just doesn't belong here? Which one of these things is not like the others? One of those things. It's just confusing to me. I don't know how the DOJ, which has shown institutional rot for over a decade, is now suddenly incredible when it comes to one single prosecution. Amazing.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. There might be a good explanation for it. But that's why I think people should welcome the opportunity to allow Chairman Comer's committee to look into things.
They're not going to be able to do it. Bill, I don't know what is going on with him. Very, very confusing fella. Hopefully he figures it out. A lot of incongruence. We can help him along here. Also, the Trump prosecution is also corrupt, Bill. That makes consistency. It would make it all the same. You wouldn't have to do topsy-turvy pretzel twisty donuts every time now to explain it. They're the same agency. It's the same people who are in charge. It's Merrick Garland. Now, people are reacting to this, and I think they're just as confused as we are because what the heck is going on here? Donald Trump said a couple things about this on True Social. He said, the Hunter-Joe Biden settlement is a massive cover-up and full-scale election interference scam, the likes of which has never been seen in our country before. A traffic ticket, and Joe is all cleaned up and ready to go into the 2024 presidential election. And this comes as the crooked DOJ, state and city prosecutors, Marxists and communists all hit me from all sides and angles with bull, ... Make America great again. Trump also said, wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere, quote, traffic ticket. Our system is broken. And he's right. I do believe that this is going to be the end of it for them. They're going to say, we're done. No further investigation. Any inquiries that are being provided by the Oversight Committee are now irrelevant because a guilty plea is done. It's finalized. And the media will provide cover on this thing. And they timed it very, very nicely right in the middle of what I expect to be Trump indictments. Trump indictments 2 and 3. Indictment 2 comes out. They slop in the Hunter stuff. They sandwich it on top with Trump indictment number 3. Ron DeSantis also commented on this. Says, it looks like Hunter received a sweetheart deal and is not facing any charges on the massive corruption allegations. If Hunter was not connected to the elite DC class, he would have been put in jail a long time ago. Here's Ron.
Two different sets of rules depending on whether you're a member in good standing of elite society or not. If Hunter were a Republican, he would have been in jail years ago.
A long time ago. If he was the right kind of Republican, he probably would have been okay. Like if he was, I don't know, like Romney's kid or, who's the other kid? Kerry's kid, although he's maybe like a McConnell's kid, something like that, probably would be okay. So that's Ron DeSantis. And then we have another one from another presidential primary candidate. This one is Vivek. And here's what he had to say.
Vivek, to your point, if these guys no longer are with those shows after you go on, I have a few places I'd like to send you. But putting that aside, Joe Biden, one of the things he's doing is staying out of the headlines. If you win the nomination, there is a good chance he hides in the Oval. How are you going to smoke him out of the Oval?
So look, I want to see him on that debate stage and have him meet the same fate that Don Lemon did, put him out of a job. But the real issue here, Kayleigh, let's get to the bottom of what's going on. Biden's cognitive deficits are not a bug. They are a feature because he is really just a puppet for the managerial class and the administrative state as it exists today. And I actually have somewhat of a contrarian prediction, Kayleigh. If there's a scenario where President Trump's out of the race. Biden is actually the puppet they want to put up against him. But the reason they have the document investigation going against Biden is they're going to pull that card on him whenever he stops being a convenient puppet for them.
Ooh.
So we have to see through that farce. This is not Biden just being an unintelligent rambler. He is a puppet for the administrative state. That's the truth.
He's an empty vessel. They just pick him up and move him from room to room. You go here, you mumble through that. Everybody gives you excuses for mumbling it. They just, oh, it's just Joe Biden and the speech impediment, you know, and who cares anyways? And they just keep motoring along, room to room to room, country to country to country. But Joe Biden is not much more than that. He's a nice vessel. He is something that I think they can make into whatever they want and exploit him to their ends. And it's really quite disgusting what they're doing. But think about the fact that the FBI and these different intelligence agencies might have literal leverage over the president. They know what is behind those redactions in the FD 1023. They presumably have the recordings. I'm sure the NSA's got those on record. If they have all of that and Joe Biden does not want to be exposed, who has more power and who's in charge here? Doesn't the American public have a right to know about that? I think so. So does Vivek. Now, the Speaker of the House got asked about this, Kevin McCarthy. Very brief comment from him, and he's walking out. CNN picked this one.
The Hunter Biden plea deal and your reaction?
My first reaction is it continues to show the two-tier system in America. If you are the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal. Now, this does nothing to our investigation. It actually should enhance our investigations because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information now, saying that because of pending investigation, they should be able to provide Chairman Comer with any information that he requires.
We'll see if they comply anything to anybody ever. I think they're going to just say the investigation's over. There is nothing. And they'll just keep defaulting to sources and methods, and they'll bury this even harder than before. They'll point to finality. They'll say, we're done now. Now, Congressman Byron Donalds had a very interesting take on this one. We'll see if the Washington Post picks this up. It says the party that preaches about white privilege, the Democrats, they do a great job of practicing it. Don't believe me? Look no further than the slap on the wrist of Hunter Biden compared to minority Americans that did equal or lesser tax offenses. Where's the outrage from minority activists? Where are all these white privilege hysterics from California out there screaming at everybody about this? And where are all the minority activists screaming about this? Hunter Biden has gotten away with so much here. Pretty shocking. In fact, this is a point that we've made many times before. We've asked ourselves, why Hunter Biden, who's got actual images of him with mounds of crack on scales, not in prison, when we know that Joe Biden was the godfather of our modern 3 strikes rule. And we know that at one point in time in American history, we had basically a no strikes rule for crack in America, crack cocaine in America. And Joe Biden wanted even first-time offenders to get mandatory minimums every time they went to jail, every time they got convicted. But that penalty did not apply to Hunter. So Byron Donalds is calling out actively this massive double standard. Where is the outrage over this? Thousands of African Americans who were caught up in the crack cocaine epidemic were thrown in prisons because of Joe Biden's laws that he spearheaded. And then for some reason, the Democratic Party somehow took the mantle of criminal justice reform in 2020 after George Floyd. It was the most baffling thing I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? Joe Biden, I think, is more responsible for more African Americans in prison. I think this is probably true than any other person alive in America. Joe Biden, the result of his rules, his 1980s crime bill, the 1994 crime bill that he takes ownership of. I can't think of anybody else who might be more responsible for that. But then the Democrats take over this mantle, and for some reason there seems to be alignment on that topic, and it's just an amazing thing. Although we're seeing more numbers that the polls might be falling for the Democrats, especially in certain demographics. And there are questions about that. Does this open up Pandora's box for them? Do Republicans start trying to trace those funds and really do some forensic accounting on 2017, 2016, 18 tax returns and try to unpack all of this? We know that there's a lot of evidence that the financial records were highly problematic, and that according to House Republicans that there were tens of millions of dollars transacted. Joe Biden promised that his son did nothing wrong. Turns out that's not accurate.